Hi, Jerry Heron, liberal to red pill, diving into another hot topic, LGB Never T. I'm very good at poking the proverbial fork into the electric toaster, and this is another stab at woke world, the hard left's cultural revolution, which is the intrusion and inclusion of transgender into the LBG community. I firmly believe that transgender is not a sexuality and therefore does not belong in LGB, but found a home during the early days of gay civil rights movement because alternative folks were generally accepting. Now transgender activists who are not gay are taking over gay spaces and gay civil rights history. Why do I care? Because I fear that gay civil rights progress is going to be swept away along with this toxic tide of woke world PC cultural Marxism, and we're ignoring science, biology is being dismissed, and everything is upside down. The transgender activists are becoming social parasites, building their way into society, commandeering LGBT civil rights progress, and demanding more than just acceptance. They want special rights. Gay civil rights will suffer for their bad behavior. So transgender actors are pressuring society to radically change what we have always understood about gender and sexuality, questioning, what is male, what is female. Suddenly we're confused about sexuality, what is gay and what is straight. When the center-sane folks have finally had enough of this woke world bullshit and fight back, LGBT civil rights is going to be on the losing side. That's my fear. Before I redefine what is gay, straight, and bisexuality, let's start by reconfirming gender, because now we have to. What is gender and how many genders are there? Gender, correctly defined, is male and female, period. There are only two genders. The woke world PC Marxists would have us believe that there are any number of genders up to and beyond 67. Why? Because it's feelings over facts, it's emotion over biology. And it's their agenda to upend centuries of science and biology on their quest to destroy Western civilization and redo it in their own ideology. So how many genders are there? Here is Colin Wright, evolutionary biologist and managing editor of Quillette, a free thought platform with trigonometry's Francis Foster and Konstantin Kisin, who are still, quite frankly, confusing sex and gender.
So you had to leave because there was a dispute about the number of sexes, and you say some of these people were saying there's 5, there's 10. And it's always a frustration of ours that whenever we talk to somebody like you, we've had Diana Fleischman, Jeffrey Miller, Brett Weinstein, all of these people, invariably we have to go back to very basic things. But we're going to have to do that because it's been so muddled and so muddied. So how many sexes are there?
So far, we've only counted 2.
Okay, there are not 67 genders, only 2. Good to know. Now on to sexuality. So what is sexuality? Sexuality is about sexual feelings, thoughts, and attractions towards other people. That's a medical quote. Therefore, sexuality is heterosexual, men and women attracted to the opposite gender. Sexuality is homosexual, men and women attracted to their own gender. Sexuality is also bisexual, men and women attracted to both their own gender and the opposite gender. The woke world PC Marxists want us to believe that there are any number of sexualities, including pansexual, demisexual, gray sexual, non-binary, and a host of other feelings and not facts. All these add-on sexualities are completely made up. Here is Rose of Dawn, a conservative transgender activist and video blogger with the Trigonometry Guys again.
And what is non-binary? I still can't understand it. What is it?
So non-binary is something which is quite difficult to describe because a lot of people have their own weird definitions of it. Effectively, what it means is you don't identify as male or female, and the barrier for entry is basically non-existent. This is where the likes of the attack helicopter meme or Piers Morgan claiming to be a penguin came about, because there is a list of various different genders that you can identify as and be non-binary. This can range from being like a demi-boy or gender queer or gender fluid to genders that sound incredibly strange when you look at the definition. I can't quite remember the name of it, but there is a gender which is 100% of one gender and then also a bit of another gender as well.
That's a really greedy gender, isn't it?
There's another one which is like your gender is like water, your gender is like space, your gender's like fire. You can only have this particular gender if you are autistic. These are like people making up their own ways of describing themselves, and it feels very much like a fad.
It's a fad. It's a fashion. In other words, it's all bullshit. It's all completely made up. So where does transgender fit into sexuality? Let's ask a notorious transgender, male to female, Bruce Jenner, when he was still Bruce. Question, does transgender mean you are gay? This is Diane Sawyer, ABC News, interviewing Bruce.
Oh my God. Yeah, is he gay?
Yes. Are you gay?
No, I'm not gay. I am not gay. I am, as far as I know, heterosexual.
You don't know.
Because it's not, as far
What
as...
do you mean, as far as you know?
As far as I know. I've never been with a guy. I've always been married, raising kids.
Right, and you can desire a woman every bit as much.
Yeah.
He's almost amused by my attempt to walk through this maze.
Again, it's the confusion inside this because,
So much confusing.
yes, if you are assigned male and you become female, but you like women, are you a lesbian? Are you a heterosexual who...
You're going back to the sex thing, and it's apples and oranges. There's two different things here. Sexuality is who you are personally attracted to, who turns you on, male or female. But gender identity is how to do with who you are as a person and your soul and who you identify with inside.
To quote Bruce Jenner, sexuality is who you're attracted to. Gender identity is who you are as a person, or quite frankly, who you think you are. Question, so are you gay? Answer, no, I'm not gay. There you have it, right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Transgender doesn't belong in LGB. So what is transgender if it is not a sexuality? Transgender is a dysphoria. It is a body and mind disconnect. Your body is one thing, fact. Your mind thinks it is something else, fantasy. Again, it's about feelings versus facts. Here's my very favorite transgender personality, video blogger, Blair White. And Blair clarifies that this is a dysphoria, not a sexuality.
So if you research gender dysphoria, which trans people have, real trans people have, you will learn that people have varying levels of dysphoria and dysphoria towards certain things. What always brought me the most dysphoria before I transitioned was walking down the street, going places, and feeling like people read me as male. So that involved my face, that involved the fact that I was very flat-chested, and those are two things that I fixed through surgery. And after that, all that dysphoria basically went away. Like, it's gone.
And wonderful, outspoken ex-feminist Posey Parker comes at transgender activists with shotgun blasts.
Look, we have all types of dysphoria. We have people that don't feel they should have two legs. We have people that think they should be blind. We have people that think that they're fat when they're sort of 5.5 stone. We don't go along with those things and say that it'd be good for you to starve to death, or it'd be good for you to become a medical patient, or be blind.
I am not going to pretend that I fully understand transgenderism, but I have come to understand it more and more by being open and willingly educated. I'm just a simple vanilla gay man. So let's try and wrap our heads around which sexuality is attracted to transgender people, and if they are not gay, what are they? Let's ask Blair White and her boyfriend, Joey Sawson.
One of the top searches with the name Blair White is, and actually always has been, Blair White boyfriend. So obviously everyone's question is, what's his sexuality? What does he identify as? Is he gay? Is he straight? Is he bi? Is he something else? And I'm of the opinion, and this is based on studies, I will link the study below, I think men who are attracted to trans women are none of the above. I think they're their own kind of thing, and there's just not easy language for it. There is a word, but it's incredibly long and sounds gross, which is why people don't use it. The word is gynandromorphophilic, which sounds like you have some kind of disease. Oh, yeah. Which is, so clearly people aren't going to use that word ever.
So the correct word to describe the sexual attraction is gynandromorphophilic. That kind of sounds like a cross between something you would plant in your herbaceous borders and an STD. The definition is an attraction to gynandromorphs, who are male with both breasts and a penis. That's the dry biology. But then what does the boyfriend consider is his sexuality? Is he straight? Is he gay? Is he bi?
So for all intents and purposes, obviously the easiest word to describe my sexuality is straight.
So Blair's boyfriend, dating a transgender, male to female, considers himself straight. He's not gay, he's not bi. Most importantly, not LGB.
Except, if anything, it feels gayer because I do all the dishes and cleaning and Blair doesn't help around the house at all.
Now, to an awkward question, to snip or not to snip, to fully transition or not to, and what are the consequences to your health? So back to Fabulous Blair White again.
What do you have down there? Have you had the surgery? Have you had the big snip? But I have not had gender reassignment surgery. So a lot of people think that it's a big snip. I even jokingly call it that. You're not actually cutting anything off. You're not removing anything. You're actually reusing the tissue, organizing things, and you're basically turning it inside out to create a cavity which looks like a vajayjay.
So it is not snip-snipping, it is actually using what you already have and reassigning it to create a vajayjay, in her words.
And think about if you've ever had any type of wound on your body, what your body does is attempt to close it. So to stop it from doing that, much like, a piercing or a body modification of another sort, you have to keep it open. But basically what you use is that little thing that housewives keep in their drawer next to their bed for when their husbands are not home, and you have to use one of those on yourself for up to a year every single day. I don't know who the hell has up to a year of downtime after surgery, but I do not. And then the surgery is often a very risky surgery, so
in case you missed that, Blair was explaining that you have to insert a phallus into this newly created hole to stop your body from closing up that hole, which it considers to be a wound that needs to heal. And then you have to do it for up to a year post-surgery. And most importantly, without your birth genitalia, you may end up having an adult life without sexual pleasure. Who the hell wants that?
there are a lot of really crazy complications that can happen. People have had their urethras close up. People have been unable to pee. People have lost their pleasuratory sensations when they're making love. There's just a lot to it.
Blair goes into many more issues with transitioning, such as surgical complications, depression, and even suicide. So catch the full video, I'll link it below. And then on to the issue with gender transitioning pre-pubescence, which I think is outright child abuse. For example, you start transitioning with puberty blockers, medication. A boy is blocked from becoming a man, meaning he grows into his teens with a child-sized penis. Ergo, the reconstruction surgery explained by Blair to create a faux vagina is inhibited and conditioned by the size of the penis, which is tiny. So sometimes that reconstruction surgery is not even possible, let alone practical. One of my main concerns with the LGB community is the pressure to persuade parents and preteens, even as young as 5, that they are gender dysphoric, when in all likelihood, they are just young people who would normally grow up to be gay, lesbian, or bi. Example, that tomboy girl or that effeminate boy.
They also teach trans ideology as if that is something that we all know.
When you say trans ideology, what is it that they're teaching kids?
Well, that some people are trans and that it's possible to change sex. So they might sort of talk to kids. Mermaids do this wonderful. This is going to sound like I'm making it up, but it's not. It's true. It goes into schools, and it's this long line of jelly baby people, and you've got like a stick thing Barbie, pink at one end, and the other end you've got a brown G.I. Joe, and then the spectrum of colours. Kids have to pick where they are. So if you're a boy and you kind of feel like you're over here, then maybe really you're a girl and you're in the wrong body. Or maybe if you like Barbies and trucks, you might be non-binary.
I had an appointment recently at the Tavistock in London, and our second appointment is the second day I go back to school. I'm hoping for the blockers just to make the whole package, really, make me happy, and that will be that.
So here is a 10-year-old girl who may be just a tomboy, who has been persuaded by parents, adults, social workers, charities, medical practitioners who should know better, that she is actually a boy in the wrong body and should go on a course of body-altering medications to be happy. And as Blair says in her full video, the surgery isn't a magic wand. Post-surgery, the rent is still due, your issues with your family, your relationships, your friends, and other life issues, they're still there. Sadly, it's been sold as a cure-all for depression and common life issues. The post-surgery suicide rates are just the same for transgender before and post-surgery.
If someone asks me if I am on testosterone or blockers, I'm currently on blockers. I'll be on testosterone when I'm 14 or 16.
If Kai decides not to transition, his puberty blockers can be reversed by stopping treatment.
That's a complete myth that his or her puberty blockers can be reversed. Once you have disturbed natural puberty, there's no going back. Your breasts are not going to suddenly bounce back. That child-sized penis is suddenly not going to grow into adult size. That deep male voice in a young woman, it's permanent. They are still being sold a false bill of goods. Children are making adult decisions without having the maturity and to understand the serious consequences.
I mean, I always knew that there was something wrong, but because it wasn't like so open and out there as it is now.
But the real harm is that children are having their bodies mutilated and altered in irreversible ways, and that's happening more and more and more, and it's becoming almost like people have forgotten their brains, that people think it's a great idea, that parents get complimented when their kids go on puberty blockers because they're so super brave.
As soon as I told her, it just got off my chest and I was fine. And then she just like helped me with everything.
And once you socially transition these children, then they almost have no choice into the puberty blockers, because if you're getting this high praise as a parent and a child of, oh, you're so great, oh, you're so brave, or you must love your son, daughter, son, so much in order to do this, and the child's getting loads of praise and all this focus and attention, and you're going to counselling and you're tiptoeing around, and the child's managed to make mummy and daddy call them by a different name and use a different pronoun, and the school has to do it, and you become this king in your own life. Why are you going to give that up?
You must be very proud of me. I am. Very proud.
And when are you going to give it up? Like, when are you going to have the consciousness to be able to say, actually, this isn't right. I really don't feel like a girl anymore. I think I'm a boy. By that point, you know, have you taken puberty blockers? Have you totally disrupted your body? You know, it's insane. And doctors won't talk about it. Like, every place you go to where you think, well, stop there. They're not going to go along with that. That's insane. The doctors are going along with it. The GPs are too frightened to speak up. Psychologists.
Sky News research suggests 35 psychologists have resigned from the Children's Gender Service in London in the last 3 years. We've managed to contact 20 of them. Only 6 would speak to us. All 6 said they were concerned about giving hormone treatment to children with gender dysphoria. All 6 felt they weren't able to properly explore underlying psychological factors.
Looking back, there are young people who I now wouldn't necessarily put on medication or sign off on medication.
This was the only clinician prepared to be interviewed. They asked us to change their voice.
I was once working with an executive that felt the gender dysphoria a young person was presenting with was really strong, really intense. So she decided to put the young person forward for the hormone blocking treatment after 2 appointments. Looking back, it was a young person with a history of trauma and direct trauma in terms of abuse. And also there were other things happening to them, and this was not really explored by the clinician.
These views were echoed by others who had worked at the clinic. Therapy is not an option in this service, one psychologist told us. We fear that we have had front row seats to a medical scandal, said another. A record number of young people are being referred to the Children's Gender Service at the Tavistock. There were just 77 patients referred here 10 years ago. By last year, the number had climbed to 2,590 children, the majority female at birth. And they've told us around 3,000 more children are on the waiting list. The clinic sees children under 18, some as young as 3 years old. Around half the children who come here are put on drugs at puberty to essentially pause their physical development. That would be the first step of any medical intervention. The next would be hormone treatment at 16 years old, and any surgical procedures would only happen after they turned 18. For many young people, gender is simply much more fluid. Children are being encouraged to express themselves outside of the binary male-female stereotypes. Much of the concern expressed to us isn't about whether people should transition or not. It's about the age at which they're medicalised.
And the lawsuits have already begun.
I would have liked to have, some sort of intensive therapy, really. I think that I should have been challenged on the proposals or the claims that I was making for myself, and I think that would have made a big difference as well. I think it's up to these, institutions like the Tavistock to step in and make children reconsider what they're saying, because it is, a life-altering path that you're going down.
But isn't it also quite homophobic as well? Because a lot of people are questioning their gender. Isn't it a lot of the times that they're finding out their sexuality and realising they're attracted to the same sex?
Well, it's gay conversion therapy, isn't it? You get your gender non-conforming lesbian and you transition her into a straight man. But certainly with effeminate boys, I think that is the main impetus for people. You can erase away the gay with a bit of transition and saying he was a girl all along.
Simply put, it is a form of gay conversion therapy, except this time it is not coming from the hard right, evangelicals, pray away the gay. It is coming from the woke world PC mob, the medical institutions, and from within the LGB community working against themselves. Konstantin Kisin makes this very good point about would we be having the same conversation about gay rights 30 years ago?
Would we not have been having the same conversation about gay people 30 years ago? It's just in their head. What they really need is therapy. They're just thinking it. It's a mental disorder or whatever. You didn't use those words, but you didn't, and I'm not putting that in your mouth. But it's some kind of thing in their head, and what we need to do is help them to be normal.
It's a good argument, and it's one that it's one that the trans activists use a lot. And I think that the way we've dealt with trans activism and transgenderism generally is a backlash to how terribly badly we dealt with homophobia and homosexuality. But we didn't talk to children about being gay before their sexuality happened. And gay men never stood in a room and said, "You must call me straight." And that's the difference. The whole trans thing is demanding something of other people that isn't just accept me. It's making demands that goes beyond accept me. It's I demand that you see me the way I see myself.
Yes and no. LGBT civil rights was about demanding to be included into society, not change society into a gay, lesbian, bi definition.
And gay rights never did that. Gay rights was about, I want to live my life and I want to operate fully in society without getting the shit kicked out of me when I walk down the road and loads of abuse. And I think if trans activism had done that and said, look, we get attacked, we want the same rights as everybody else, which they already have, then I don't think we'd have this, the wall. And the interesting thing is it's a lot of lesbians that are speaking up against transgenderism because their community has been annihilated. Not only are there very young lesbians being transitioned, but also all lesbian spaces are occupied by men, and so they don't really exist. And it's a lot of left-leaning liberal women that are going, no, we're not going to have this. You're not going to do this. You're not going to make women move over for men in our own space. And, I think there's a chap on Twitter that basically said, do people honestly think that all these liberal live and let live people just suddenly got up one day and was like, actually, I'm going to be a raging bigot. I'm just going to pick one issue and I'm just going to be an absolute arsehole about it. And I've totally switched and now I'm a Nazi. No.
Then there is the aggression from narcissistic trans activists demanding we believe something that isn't fact, but simply their feelings.
Well, I'm aware that because I'm non-binary, I'm confusing to you. but you're going to have to respect me. You think that getting it comes before respecting me, but it's the other way around. You need to see my humanity. You must respect me and talk to me like a human being, and then maybe later you'll get it. But that's the least important part.
This is not like our early gay civil rights protests, when we pressed to have equal position and function within society, not to be placed above society or against society because somehow we were more special just because we said so. I marched for a safe life free from discrimination in employment, housing, etc. To be able to leave a gay pub and be able to call the police when we were attacked by homophobic skinheads and have the police take our complaints seriously. That wasn't always the case. We were never the bullies.
Cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to. You need to settle down.
You need to settle down and mind your business, okay? Ma'am, once again, ma'am.
I said both of you.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys. It was a general.
Right beforehand, you said sir.
Sir? Okay.
Take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you, sir.
I apologize. I apologize now.
And if that wasn't bad enough, there is Jessica Yaniv.
This is the latest salon that's facing a complaint from Jessica Yaniv, the transgender woman who's already complained to BC's Human Rights Tribunal about 15 other salons, complaints that were dismissed. And in 3 of those, she was fined, fines she has yet to pay. In this latest case, Yaniv sent the salon these Facebook messages in August asking about waxing services. First a Brazilian, then just a leg wax, adding she's transgender. The salon's owner, a practicing Sikh, told her they only waxed women.
You're asking for an East Indian woman who is an adherent to the Sikh religion to take somebody who has a biological male body into the back of the salon and have that person disrobe from the waist down, and then have this individual, the service provider, provide this very personal service.
Yaniv filed a complaint 2 months later claiming discrimination. She wants $25,000 for the injury to her dignity and self-respect. It's a similar pattern to some of her previous 15 complaints, behavior that the Human Rights Tribunal found to be in bad faith, motivated by a desire to target small businesses for personal financial gain, and to punish racialized women based on the perception that South Asian and Asian communities are taking over.
She was found to have acted like a predator.
Trans rights advocate Morgan Auger is critical of Yaniv's behavior.
Whereas everybody has every right to live free of discrimination, no one has the right to trap others into bad situations.
Jessica Yaniv is single-handedly doing more damage to societal acceptance of transgender folks with her aggression, violence, sexual predatory on minor girls, and constant lawsuits for transgender discrimination against mostly immigrant minority women. He's both prejudiced and racist. Sadly, Yaniv is back with a new name, but the same tactics. So not only are transgender activists aggressively forcing their acceptance into society and into the LGB civil rights community, they are reversing gay history.
My name is Fred Sargent. Back in 1969, myself and a few thousand others were at Stonewall. Activism then was very, very different than what goes on today. We didn't have the tools that you use. What we did have, we used as effectively as we could. When Stonewall happened, it changed the activism. I had been involved in pre-Stonewall activism, and the activism that occurred after Stonewall was as a direct result of the energy of so many young people being infused into the then just emerging gay and lesbian rights movement. Throughout the summer and fall of 1969, there were so many demonstrations, marches, but it started to detect something in the movement that I felt concerned about at first, that the story of Stonewall had changed. Last year when I was doing interviews for the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, I kept hearing stories about transgender people who had spearheaded the gay rights movement and that we now owed everything that we've achieved to the fearlessness of the transgender activists at Stonewall. I have to say that that's just flat out untrue, and that's part of why I've come out of retirement to speak about this. We have historians who have examined this in great detail, and we know that this did not occur. We can have all the things necessary to be a functioning society for all people, but unless gay people and lesbians take the reins of their own movement now, we're going to lose it.
Here is some more LGB minus the T drama for ya. Hi, I'm Ariel. For those of you who are new and never seen my videos before, I'm a lesbian and I do a lot of LGBT content here on this channel, and I don't always agree with all of it. I agree with very little of it, which is why I get so much shit from the community. Also why I get so much love from the community. Recently, there is a group called the LGB Alliance who are said to be distancing themselves from trans activism, and I can understand why personally, but I don't fully agree with it. And a trans guy YouTuber named Jamie from the UK reacted to this news in a video, and I also don't fully agree with him. So this is that video. If you're new here, subscribe. Lots more videos like this coming.
They've caused quite a stir recently as they have reportedly broken away from Stonewall, and for those of you who don't know, Stonewall is a well-known UK charity that fights for LGBT rights. People who are part of this newly formed LGB Alliance group include academics, doctors, and even Simon Fanshawe, who is a founding member of Stonewall. The group believes that since 2015, which is when Stonewall became trans-inclusive, that Stonewall have stopped representing LGB rights. So they split from them, claiming that the charity was now promoting the transgender agenda, whatever that is, at the expense of LGB rights.
No, they haven't stopped representing LGB rights, but it is insanely focused on non-binary and trans and gender fluid and all these other genders that no one even really knows what they are. I actually talked about this specific thing. The words gay and lesbian have been featured in their yearly reports less and less over the last 4 years. The purple is lesbian and pink is trans. Look how lesbian is being squeezed out, every one of them. Look, 2016, they weren't even mentioned in the HRC report, the word lesbian. So in that case, yeah, I understand. Just because you're being more inclusive of the T doesn't mean that you have to exclude the L, the B, and the G. I think when people are talking about the trans agenda, what they mean is the trans activist community coming up with it have no way of working in the real world. We have trans women athletes such as Rachel McKinnon, who recently blocked me on Twitter. Thank you for that. Trans woman athlete telling cis women that she competes against that a real champion would accept bio males competing in female athletics. If you win because bigotry has got your competition banned, then you're a loser. Literally, she said this the other day. And apparently she also said that the only valid sexual orientation was pansexual because the rest is rooted in bigotry as well, which obviously I disagree with. Lesbians are being told how to define our sexual orientation from people that aren't women or people that are not female. Surprise, surprise. I'm not surprised at all, actually. So Jamie, this is what they mean and sometimes what I mean when we say trans activists. To us, these are the people that are damaging the reputation of the LGBT community, which is why we want to distance ourselves from them.
Posey also makes this astute point that with this tidal wave of middle-aged men suddenly discovering that they are really women, where are the tidal wave of middle-aged women suddenly discovering that they are really men?
And the whole dysphoria thing is a misnomer anyway, because where are the heterosexual women coming out as men in their 40s? The mothers who are coming out as men. Because there's plenty of men that are coming out apparently as women that have known all their lives and suddenly revise their entire lives to support that narrative. But there are no women doing it.
And that's an
interesting point.
Yeah,
that I've not heard before.
Yeah.
It seems to be an exclusive male syndrome. What really, quite frankly, astounds me is that the staunch feminists, the ERA folks, are surrendering women's spaces to gender-confused men. Where's women's equality?
A lot of women, in particular women that I know who are very close to me, get incensed and enraged by the term cis woman. Why is that so contentious amongst women?
Because it's women that have to change all our bloody language. We're uterus havers. I think in Ireland now, you're pregnant people. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm a woman. That should be enough, right? But it's not enough anymore because we have trans women. And so now apparently we have to have a prefix. This is why all the little tiny kind of placating language, right? All the things that are supposed to be nice and polite and kind, why they're so fucking dangerous. Because it means trans women, and I think the Green Party called us called women like me non-trans women. I mean, fuck off. It's no.
So much for women's equality. It seems that women's place in society has been marked down like a red dot special. So wrapping this up, I want to reiterate, I am not denying gender dysphoria, nor am I against people transitioning their gender. As a gay man, I have experienced discrimination. I want transgender people to have a place in society, not change society to suit their dysphoria and intrusive goals. But I'm not going to be brainwashed into believing things that are simply aren't true. I firmly believe that we're on the precipice as a society of doing enormous damage, irreversible damage to humanity, particularly young people, and certainly the LGB community. It is LGB Never T. Transgender folks, you found a home within the LGB community. It's time now to find your own home. You've got to stop evading LGB spaces. You've got to stop evading women's spaces. And particularly, you've got to stop evading women and girls' sports. Good luck with your independence. I honestly wish you the very best. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this informative. Please like, share, and comment below. Much appreciated. Thank you.
If you ask Sam Smith what non-binary is, he's like, I don't know, I'm just finding out. Well, yeah, mate, 'cause it doesn't really exist.
Look at me, I'm genderqueer, lousy with the binary. Said I was gay, but it felt so cliche. So now I'm genderqueer, whatever that means. Ooh. Oh, I'm bored of that now, so let me see what gender identity would make people say you're so stunning and brave. I've got it, non-binary. They, them from now on, please. Am I a woman? A man? Yes. A girl? Or a guy? Or do I eat too many pies? And if my vocal cords would be best male awards, should I still think about the prize? Well, I guess, of course, I could be male for 5 minutes. I just want to prance around, let the woman in me out. That's what girls do, and I'm partly girl too. So watch me wink and pout. Alexa, what do you say? What gender shall I be today? I want to evoke something even more bogus. Yes?
You're a bloke.
Oh, stop erasing me!
You can be a guy and wear makeup.
Oh!
There's nothing wrong with that.
Alexa is transphobic.
Stop whining. You can do that on the records.
Oh, who am I?
A guy who's up his own ass.